This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 50 and verse 45. Therefore hear ye the counsel of Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai, that he hath taken against Babylon, and his purposes that he hath purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and infinite glory unto Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Bacha HaKodash. Double honors unto the elder apostles, the elder bishops, and the heads and elders of all the camps of Great Millstone. GMS will do well. Who I've learned this 100% truth from, who are the true leaders of all Israel, Yasha Allah today. Peace, blessings, and salutations unto the Bayath, the water, the hopeful elect, the house of David, scattered abroad. This is your brother Tazapanya of the Great Millstone, Washington, D.C. camp. Adawan Ratazah, Lord willing. This digital epistle, spiritual commentary, is edifying to the elect. So I started out with Jeremiah 50 and 45, all right, regarding, as it says, the counsel of the Lord, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father. Yahweh Shai is the name of the only begotten Son. And this is a prophecy against America, all right? This Babylon that is talking about is America, because this didn't happen aforetime. It's not talking about ancient Babylon, okay? Because Babylon, as far as the land goes, is still here. Modern day Iraq is still here, okay? So the Lord has counsel not only against Babylon, but his purposes, all right? And America has a bunch of purposes or an agenda, but the Lord is going to thwart that agenda, okay? It says, surely the least of the flock. Who's the least of the flock? Is these JOOs, okay? These small hats. The Amalekites is their true biblical nationality, okay? They are a tribe, the chief tribe of the nation of Edom. So they're Edomites, hence they are part of the nation that the Lord hath indignation forever. Malachi 1 and 4. So the Lord hates them, as do we, okay? Scriptures say love the good and hate the evil. And, you know, this man is completely evil. As you see what he's doing throughout the world, man, not just on a military sense, because even the scriptures say Babylon is the hammer of the whole earth, okay, constantly bombing everywhere, but on a spiritual sense with their wicked ideologies, all right? Hence in Revelation, Babylon had the cup filled with the wrath of a fornication, roughly paraphrasing, which is basically all of these philosophies that are wayward and adverse to the scriptures, and yet they go and make all these other nations to drink. The scriptures say, woe unto him that force, all right, his neighbor to drink, roughly paraphrasing. And that's what America does as well. Forces all these philosophies and ideologies upon these other kingdoms, so to speak. Okay, so notice how it says, I put Nero marches to whose? The JOO's Drumbeat. All right, so the JOO's say dance, and Nero says for how long? Okay, so they're the ones that is playing the war drums, and Nero is following right along with it. So without further ado, we're going to let Kim Iverson to a short video, filtered through the scriptures, close it on out.
The U.S. was striking them. So what essentially happened was that Yemen decided to start striking Israeli ships in the Red Sea because Israel had basically violated the ceasefire agreement. And the terms of Yemeni's Houthis was they wanted to see an end to the war against the Palestinians. And they wanted, excuse me here, let me get this for you. There we go. I want to show you guys some of these images of what's gone on there in Yemen, these strikes. So you can kind of take a look there. But the issue was that Israel had backed down from it violated many times the ceasefire agreement that it had with Gaza. They were trying to change the terms of the agreement. They had come to the agreement, the three-stage agreement, and then Israel was actually going to, they wanted to redo the deal midway through. And because Hamas didn't want to redo the deal, Israel decided that they would just starve the Palestinian people. So what did the Houthis do? They said, all right, you're at it again, so we're at it again. So they started going after the Israeli ships. And what did the United States do in response to Israeli ships being attacked by the Houthis in the Red Sea? The U.S. starts bombing Yemen because we're being attacked. I mean, no U.S. ships at that point had been attacked. It was just Israeli ships. And then the U.S. goes and bombs Yemen on behalf of Israel. And on top of it, Donald Trump says that we're actually that this is Iran. So it looks like we're going to war with Iran is what we're heading towards. He says, let nobody be fooled. The hundreds of attacks being made by Houthis, the sinister mobsters and thugs based in Yemen who are hated by the Yemeni people, which, by the way, what I was showing you here, this one, does this look like they're hated by the Yemeni people? I mean, this is all the Yemeni people over the weekend coming out in droves in support of Palestine, in support of the Houthis' defense of Palestine. So they don't really look like they're all that hated, but nonetheless, Trump says that they're hated by the Yemeni people, all emanate from and are created by Iran. And he has Iran in all caps. So here we go, war with Iran. Wind down war with Ukraine and war with Russia so that we could just go into war with Iran. So smart. Any further attack or retaliation by the Houthis will be met with great force, and there is no guarantee that the force will stop there. Iran has played the innocent victim of rogue terrorists from which they've lost control, but they haven't lost control. They're dictating every move, giving them the weapons, supplying them with money and highly sophisticated military equipment, and even so-called intelligence. Every shot fired by the Houthis will be looked upon from this point forward as being a shot fired from the weapons and leadership of Iran, and Iran will be held responsible and suffer the consequences, and those consequences will be dire, says Donald Trump, President of the United States of America. Are we going to war with Iran on behalf of Israel? Because how does it benefit the United States for us to go to war with Iran? What is in it for you or me if we go to war with Iran? Would you even notice, besides the fact that our kids are being sent off to die in Iran for Israel? Does that make sense to anybody here? Is this America first? Is this what Donald Trump was elected on? Because I'm pretty sure it was to end wars, not to escalate them. But this is the last war in the great wars that Israel's trying to fight. They started off with, they wanted a war with Iraq. They got one. They wanted a war with Syria. They just toppled it. They wanted Lebanon. They've destabilized it. Libya, look what happened to Gaddafi, and now there's a slave market in Libya. Somalia and Sudan, you didn't even know we were in Somalia and Sudan, right? I mean, none of us really even knew. That one went under the radar. But the United States actually sent in military and have been doing military operations in those areas. Why? I don't know. Do you even know where they are on a map? Most people don't. Yet we were having military interventions in Somalia and Sudan, and even dead soldiers. We have dead Americans. Because of why exactly? Oh, because Israel had it on their list, and we quietly went and helped them do whatever it was they wanted us to do for them in Somalia and Sudan. And now they want us to go and take out Iran. That is the final one, and that's the one they want the most, and they've got their pup.
This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 21 and 1. The king's heart is in the hand of Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. See, in heart in the Hebrew is lab, which is your mind. So the Lord is working on the mind of the king of Babylon, which happens to be Trump, which is nothing but a puppet of the international banking families, the Amalekites. All right, for what? For war. Okay, to help usher in this third woe, because it's all about prophecy.
But now Donald Trump completely in office. He's doing everything that they want, and it looks like he's also marching us to war with Iran by bombing the Houthis. The Houthi leader, he did actually, he made a statement. Let me grab his statement here. He says, sorry, my internet is a little slow today. I might not be able to get to what he said because I don't have it right in front of me, unfortunately, but he did make a statement saying essentially that he was going to now be going, oh, here it is. Okay, this is what he says. He says, Yemen's stance has been clear. Our decision to support the Palestinian people, including our move to block Israeli maritime navigation that clearly targets the Israeli enemy and no one else, is aimed solely at pressuring Israel to open the crossings, allow the entry of humanitarian aid, and put an end to the starvation of Gaza. So they're asking for one thing and one thing only. Stop violating the ceasefire agreement. Let the humanitarian aid into Palestine. We are going to block your ships because we can until you do that, because we're the ones in a position of power and the people in Gaza are starving to death. So he says our nation's decision to support the Palestinian people by blocking Israeli navigation and enforcing restrictions against the enemy comes from this humanitarian, moral, religious, and faith-driven commitment. It is a means to press for the entry of aid and to end the starvation of 2 million Palestinians in Gaza. This is not a minor issue that can be ignored. It's a grave humanitarian crime against millions of people. Thus, when the American enemy escalates its aggression through airstrikes, it will not achieve its goal of pressuring us into retreating from our position. The only real solution is ensuring the entry of humanitarian aid, putting an end to the starvation and dehydration of the Palestinian people in Gaza. So it is very simple. Give these people food and water. And the United States is saying, screw you. We don't want to force Israel into giving them food and water. We're just going to bomb you and your kids instead. And now we've killed 53 Yemenis and kids because we didn't want to force Israel into giving food and water to other kids in Palestine. He says, as long as the American enemy persists in its aggression, its warships, aircraft carriers, and naval vessels will be targeted by our missiles and drones. So the United States was not targeted prior to this point. It was just Israeli ships. And yet Donald Trump, as a matter of American national security, decides to bomb Yemen when Yemen was attacking Israel, a foreign country in the Middle East that vast majority of Americans have never been to. In fact, probably most Americans don't even know where Israel is on a map, even though they sit there and say, I support Israel. So we attack Yemen because they're attacking Israel, a foreign country, and we claim that it's a matter of national security. And now,
this is the book of Psalms, chapter 55 and verse 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. All right, so again, in Proverbs 22 and 1, it says the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. So what has the Lord put on the king's heart? War. Because this is talking about Esau. So meaning he was acting as if he was going to be like America first, make America great again. That's smooth as butter. That is how would you put it? Basically pandering to the Babylonians, these Americans specifically. I mean, you can say all I was going to say Edomite Americans, but even some Jacob, because Jake came out of the woodworks, doing something they wasn't supposed to do, but vote, right? For Nero, all right, in large numbers, all right, because his words were softer than oil, all right, but yet they were drawn swords. So really, what was in his heart was to go to war, to do whatever the Amalekites tell him to do, because he's in the pocket of these Amalekites.
Yemen is targeting the United States because we're bombing them, and that's kind of like, yeah, what did you think was going to happen? He says, furthermore, maritime restrictions will extend to U.S. vessels as long as the aggression continues.
Oh, and I just read on End Time headlines that oil prices surge because of the all the news that came out today with America and Iran. Okay, so when it do really, really pop off, all right, we're gonna get back to that. It's actually gonna go higher, I perceive. We're talking $10, $11, $12 a gallon. Imagine that. You spending more on gas than you going to work than you are making in that one work day. And then that's going to affect everything. We waiting on that. So the future is bleak.
The U.S. is the one turning the sea into a battlefield, thereby directly impacting maritime navigation and global trade. Our decision was only targeting Israeli ships and now will extend to U.S. ships, but they're the ones who turn the sea into a battlefield and threaten maritime navigation. It's essential that all nations recognize who truly threatens international waters and the movement of ships, right? And Thomas Massey actually made a comment that the United States attacking the Houthis, claiming that it was for the access to the Red Sea Strait. Thomas Massey pointed out, we barely even use that. It's not even, American ships barely use it. The groups that are the most benefited is China is the most benefited from not having the Houthis there. And China only has one military base around the world outside of China, and that is in Djibouti, right at that strait, right at that little tiny opening into the Red Sea. So they have the most shipping going through there. So this really benefits China. This doesn't even benefit the United States, yet we did it because Israel wanted us to do it on their behalf rather than them just defending themselves. They got their big bad bully brother to do it. And we're claiming it's a matter of national security, but we're putting American lives at risk because now the Houthis are targeting American ships. So if you've got family members in the Navy and they're maybe deployed out to the Middle East, they're now at risk because Israel decided to starve a bunch of kids in Palestine. How is this an America First agenda? How is this an America First agenda? How is going to war with Iran an America First agenda? How is any of this? Is everybody just fully aware that we're completely bought off at this point? I mean, we are an Israel First nation. We're doing everything at their behest. Our foreign policy is completely controlled by them. That is so obvious. Trump is doing some of the token things here in the United States in order to keep Americans quelled, so that it's not obvious that really we're spending all of our money and might.
This is the book of Job, chapter 29, verses 24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? So you should know who runs the world if America is bought off and y'all coming to this conclusion. See, but there's things that have to be spiritually discerned. So all of this is not going to make sense to the carnal man of what's really going on the world sphere, the world stage.
On Israel and at the behest of Israel. So we'll do some little token things like jail a protester. That's one guy. We're going to jail one protester because that makes you feel like, oh, something's happening. Or we're going to take a plane load of 100 Venezuelan gang members and send them off to El Salvador. And then you feel like, wow, something's actually changing for the better. Meanwhile, we're going to go to war with Iran. And because that's the thing that Israel wants the most. That's what the Israeli people want the most. And since we work for them, that's what we're doing. I mean, this is just...
Well, that's what the Lord wants. Because the kingdom of Yahweh Shai, which by default will be the kingdom of Israel, Yasha'Allah, is written in the Holy Scriptures. And his word doesn't go out void. Okay? So... period point, there's nothing that can be altered. There is no counsel against the Lord, as the scriptures say in the book of Proverbs. Okay? Or was it the book of Psalms? Okay? There is no count. There's nothing that you could do to try to thwart or go against what was already written. As you can see, the least of the flock, the Amalekites, is going to draw Babylon out. Okay? And that's in Jeremiah 50. In Jeremiah 49, it talks about Edom. So not only is America, but even all of the so-called Caucasians, the self-proclaimed white people, all right, so it's going to be even the European Union, all right, and the NATO nations is going to be drawn out, and this is all part to Joel chapter 3. Let's end off on that. Joel chapter 3, starting at verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. All right, and these are the natural born, all right, Gentiles. Okay, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Draw near where? To the Levant region, to the valley of Jehoshaphat, the valley of decision, the valley of judgment. Beat your plowshares and the swords and your pruning hooks and the spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. All right, and this is mobilization. This is taken from your agricultural budget and putting it to your military industrial complex. I think this is what it is. There is federal jobs being cut, Doge being cut. One of the factors, not Doge being cut, but Doge, the Department of Governmental Efficiency, is searching out certain things so that they can create space to use money space, take away things that they feel like is not useful, whether it's U.S. postal workers, whether it's people in the Department of what ABC Mafia, whatever the fuck, so they could put it into the military because they know, we know, we're going to war. Period. All right. If you don't know, now you know. All right. So that's pretty much it, man. Because you could continue to keep reading and reading and reading in Jeremiah 3, but this is what it's coming down to. All right. The second woe is past, and lo, the third woe cometh quickly. World War III. So things is ramping up. And if things is ramping up, like I like to say, in the Levant region, which is one of the two things that we're supposed to look at through the Spirit given unto our apostles, other apostles on down. Also the financial sector, because we know that the MOTB has to come before us. So the more World War III news you see, and the closer it seems to be like, oh shit, all right, you already know the economic collapse and the chip is even closer because it has to come. So I'm gonna leave it at that, Lord willing. Out of one, Ratazah. That was Edfon to the elect, Brakta Yahweh, Brakta Yahushai. On to the next one. Shalom.